Sad news out of San Bernardino, California tonight. An 8-year-old student, along with his teacher, were killed this afternoon in an apparent murder-suicide. The name of the child has not been released, but the name of the victim, of the adult victim, Karen Elaine Smith, who was 53 years old. She was killed by her estranged husband, Cedric Anderson, who was also 53 years old. And you can see in the footage students being forced to evacuate to the local high school, where they were given all the things that they needed to wait until their parents were able to come and pick them up. But it's a very sad day, very tragic news. The superintendent of schools asked that they do everything that they could, talking to parents to get students back to normal as quickly as possible. This is the essence of what he was saying. And not to give him such a hard time, because, you know, he is probably as distraught as any other person in the administration. But I think that's part of the problem, is that we try to move too quickly. We move too quickly away from a tragedy. This is a very sad event. An 8-year-old who was standing behind his teacher. The man came in and he shot the teacher with a high caliber pistol, according to police officials. And the bullet also hit 2 children. There's a 9-year-old who's still in critical condition, but tragically the 8-year-old has died. And so we'll be keeping an eye on this. But I want to point out a few things here. As with any story of this magnitude, we do see the quick politicization of it. I didn't see it as much today, but I do want to point out a reality that was brought to my attention by my good friend, Michael Solomon, who also has a podcast with the Progressive Army and independent media, Media Revolt. But he pointed out something that's very true. This is not necessarily a story, a tragedy based on access to guns, so much as it is a tragedy of domestic violence and women who are killed by estranged husbands or boyfriends. And he began sharing some statistics on the number of women who are abused, domestic violence cases, the number of women who are murdered every year. And the story behind Cedric Anderson, who did this killing, it's still being revealed, but he shared a video on YouTube that I'm not sharing tonight, but we'll give you access to it. We'll get the link and share it to you. But he shared a video on Facebook, rather, and he was talking about how much he loves his wife and how crazy, essentially, that she makes him. And it's really just points out that the gross tragedy that is domestic violence and murders of women, and how vulnerable women are to this type of violence. And when this violence is not, it's compounded by the fact that an 8-year-old child was a victim of this violence as well. And, for us to move so quickly past the crux of the story versus addressing the core of it, which is the amount of domestic violence that occurs in the United States every single day, every hour of every day, and how often that violence leads to murder. There's something that needs to be said about it. There's also something that needs to be done about it in a very significant way. And we can't move so quickly past this to politicize it and then ignore the reality that in the midst of our politicization, there is someone right now who is probably who is the victim of domestic violence.